A heads up, there's going to be some cussing in this episode. These are the sounds of Jalisco, Mexico, the 7th largest state in the country. When I arrive, it's nearly Semana Santa, which is the Holy Week before Easter. The streets are peppered with vendors selling beautiful handmade wares, like a giant cow skull, hand-painted by a father in the town, sold to me by his son. That was one interesting walk through customs, and totally worth it. Anyway, the town smells like a mixture of ocean and handmade tortillas. The colors are so unique and vibrant, you'd think they were created by the very flowers that line the dilapidated stucco buildings in the plaza. Maybe they were. And this is Season 2, Episode 1 of Homegoings, a show about race and identity that encourages candid conversations about both. Welcome, or shall I say, welcome back. If you've been following the show, you know that we ended Season 1 on a bang by interviewing the incredibly controversial, race-bending, and sometimes mind-melding Rachel Dolezal. So in my reporting for Season 2, I went in search of stories that continue this kind of expansive lens on identity, and in search of people who are busting down systems and stereotypes just by being themselves. And this is what brings me to Mexico. Or should I say, who brings me here? Can you say your name, because it's way prettier than when I say it?
Angel Clouthier.
Angel Clouthier is why I'm here in Jalisco. I spent the last couple of months making her nuanced story my mission to learn more about. I think you should all hear it. And while she has no trouble sharing her name, age is another thing. This chick cracks me up. Are you cool with saying your age?
Fuck no.
Because you will not age.
No. Not fall into that trap.
I mean, it's really not a trap. It's just age.
It is. No, it's a trap. Age is in your mind, and if you feel young, then you will stay young. And I truly believe that, that's what's up.
Angel does a lot of things and seems to have lived a lot of lives. We'll dig into that more later, but I can tell you that within my first 48 hours in Jalisco, I've listened to her music, seen the beautiful dresses she's sewn herself, checked out hats she's made with intricate beading work all around the rim, and drank Jamaica, a refreshing tea of sorts she made me from the hibiscus in her backyard. She's maybe the most creative person I've ever met. The ultimate creative. And Angel's creative and adaptable lifestyle has primed her well for the life she's living. And not just the life she chose, but in a lot of ways the life that chose her. Here's what happened. In 2020, at the start of the pandemic, Angel witnessed the truly unfair treatment happening with the elderly in elder care facilities.
They were just left and just, left to waste away. Nobody knew what the fuck they were doing, and it was all hysteria and hearsay and panicking. And I think there was a lot of unnecessary deaths that happened.
For Angel, it hit a nerve pretty close to home, because she wasn't close to home, or to the person who had always felt like home to her. Angel was living in Los Angeles at the time. Her grandma, Jean Clouthier, was not. She began to worry.
Grandma was in Vancouver Island, and some voice just, because I saw something on the elderly getting left behind, and I realized, I was like, oh shit, and that elders were dying in Italy. So I called Grandma, and I said hey, how are you? And the first thing out of her mouth was, when are you coming? Immediately when she said it, I said 48 hours.
From Vermont Public, this is Homegoings. I'm Myra Flynn, and today is the launch of Season 2. Woo! And we're celebrating by taking the show out of the country for the very first time. I got to go to Mexico for a conversation with Angel Clouthier and her grandma Jean, a duo who are defining elder care in their own way. Sometimes it's explorative and joyous.
Every weekend I would go take grandma to Tofino or Victoria or Nanaimo. I'd always take her to a different restaurant. I'd take her to museums. I tried to just keep it as interesting as possible for her.
Sometimes it's just hard.
I looked into it more, realized that grandma had bed sores on her back. And I was like, Grandma, do you have an ointment for this? And she just pulls out dish soap.
But from what I can tell after 5 days with them, these two have something special figured out about living life, getting older, and doing it together.
It shows where we really come from, like Black people, where we come from. We take care of our family.
Forget aging in place. Jean is aging in paradise, alongside her granddaughter, in an episode we're calling Aging in Full Color. This is Homegoings. We're a proud member of the NPR network. Welcome home. To take care of your elders in your own home, allowing them to live their very best final years of life surrounded by family, sights, conversation, and other stimulation is a pretty common thing in many cultures outside of America. There are even laws in place around this family-to-family care, like in China, where there's an elderly rights law. This law mandates that adults visit their elderly parents often, regardless of how far away they live. Those who fail to do this face potential punishment, ranging from fines to jail time. In Latin cultures, multiple generations will live under one roof. But Western cultures like ours, well, we're a horse of a different color. Here in America, we place so much value on youth and independence because these values are directly tied to our ability to work, something that diminishes in old age, seemingly along with our value. So many of our elderly in the U.S. are in assisted living facilities and nursing homes, sometimes separated from their children and lifelong friends. Well, most Western cultures. Honestly, taking care of your elders in this close-knit way is pretty Black.
I've known Angel for so long, and she has remained like a really great, vibrant spirit.
I guess this is a good time to let you know, Angel, the woman I'm in Mexico to interview, is Black, biracial, and Black identifying. Her grandma, however, is a British white woman. So in all the ways, these two only add to the color in Jalisco. They give total rainbow vibes. And the person we just heard from is Reese, a fellow Black artist who you'll be hearing from in another episode soon enough. She turned me on to Angel. They've known each other since their 20s, and these two have shared some adventures together over the years. They're both musicians, songwriters, DJs. They both value freedom, travel, the ability to pack up and leave on a whim to play the next gig or show or high-level event. They respect each other. They both get it.
She loves the life she lives. She lives the life she loves. And she's taking on like a whole new part of her life, but she didn't leave who she is to take care of her responsibilities.
As an artist myself, who has spent nearly half of my life in the music industry, I think I can boldly say that we don't talk about this stuff enough, about impending responsibilities. We often don't and just really can't think about the future because survival is happening in real time. We're just running around trying to make it all work. And when you're Black and an artist, well, it gets more complicated. To quote Reese, who is realizing that she will soon be taking care of her mom, some of us have more insurance on our homes than we do ourselves. Luckily, there's this built-in, rich tradition of Black people caring for their elders.
We all have someone we need to take care of, whether we think we need to take care of them or not. But it really does, it just really shows who you are. It shows your heart. It shows where we really come from, like Black people, where we come from. We take care of our family.
Studies show that Black Americans seem to provide more support to their aging elders than white Americans do, even though Black adults and their elders may have greater needs than their white counterparts. And statistically speaking, we don't begin this life with the same privilege, equity, or generational wealth as our white counterparts. So this doesn't make caretaking easy. This doesn't make aging easy. With a white mom and a Black dad, Angel says she was never really raised with enough of the Black experience to weigh in on this, but she did notice growing up through photo albums or time spent that the family on her Black side were always with their elders. In short, we don't throw our people away. And this is what's unique about Angel and her Grandma Jean. Somehow, though life looks different for Angel now, with her grandma by her side, it seems no creativity, sense of freedom, or personal independence was harmed in the making of this story. She just said, "Grandma, grab your bag. We're hitting the road." Angel didn't put her life or career on hold when Jean needed care. She made room for this life change, and she figured out a way to do both, which is why I'm here. It's inspiring to witness. Like, if she can do it, maybe we all can.
She's living it. She's living that. And she's living it in a way I've never seen anyone live it. And I look up to it because I'm a creative. I don't really want to stop my life, to, take care of anyone. But I know I'm going to have to. And if I'm going to, I'm doing it like this.
I think it's important to note that Angel is not just taking care of a parent. She's taking care of a grandparent who, I should mention, also has dementia. And she's doing this full time. So in order to understand Angel's unique approach to maintaining a creative lifestyle while caring for an elder, first you have to understand Angel, which I don't purport to have conquered in a mere 5 days, but I can say that she is a force with a capital F. F in this case also stands for fashion, which she loves.
I feel like you are your own canvas, so you should paint yourself, and you should wear colors that are vibrant and affect your mood. I'm not goth. I would love to be goth. I love goth music, but I will not wear head-to-toe black. If you saw me wearing head-to-toe black, you would know I was depressed.
And Grandma Jean is just as fly as Angel. At 96, she is styling from head to toe. When I meet her, she's wearing a black and white striped shirt, a string of pearls, and her hair is a lovely shade of turquoise.
I would wear all these happy colors, and Grandma would always compliment and be like, "I really love that." I'm like, "You do?" Because she used to always wear like navies and beiges and like, neutrals. So, but I think with the dementia, you become more childlike. So she started really vibing on the colors that I was showing her. So when we would go shopping, I'd let her pick out things, and she immediately would. She has great taste.
I mentioned that Angel's a DJ, among many other things.
Casting director, model, painting assistant for a famous painter. Ended up on a Turkish soap opera called Yasak Elma, Forbidden Apple. It's like on Fox. That was funny.
Angel's About Me site says she spins disco, Chicago house, deep and tech house, funk, classic rock, and sleazy eclectic jams. Sometimes she writes original music, which I've been lucky enough to score this episode with.
Leaving the club, I see you walking down the street.
From what I'm learning, Angel hasn't stayed put for very long anywhere, really. And she likes it that way.
Yeah, I'm kind of like Forrest Gump in my life. I see myself like that, really.
How so?
Like, I am totally that person that, like, that scene where he just decides to run and just keeps on going and doesn't look back. That's me. Always down to help someone, and always ends up in random situations, and I kind of go with the wind and just end up in like really wonderful situations, but just by chance.
But this story didn't start out so colorfully. This story about how Angel and Grandma Jean began living together is actually steeped in tragedy. COVID and the treatment of elderly people during this time. We all saw it. It was hard not to. All over the world, the elderly were dying in elder care facilities. Staff was fleeing. Many were left without medication and unable to get to the then overrun hospitals. In fact, the Amnesty International launched a series of investigations in some European countries like the United Kingdom, Belgium, and Spain about this mistreatment, and even released an article of their findings about Italy, saying that at the time, quote, decisions taken and practices adopted by authorities at all levels resulted in or contributed to violations of the human rights of older residents in care homes, notably their right to life. End quote. All this to say, Angel, who was living in Los Angeles at the time, started worrying about her Grandma Jean, so she picked up the phone.
Grandma was in Vancouver Island, so I called Grandma and I said, like, hey, how are you? And the first thing out of her mouth was, when are you coming? Immediately when she said it, I said 48 hours. And I just called in sick to work because I was seeing like hundreds of people for castings, and it was making me really paranoid because I'm thinking, all these people are coming in the room. What if one of them is sick? And I was like, I'm gonna get COVID. I'm working 2 jobs that literally give me so much social interaction, and this is not good. So I called in sick, and I just drove north. And then the next week, both jobs shut down. So I drove through Port Angeles and got to Victoria, and went to a girlfriend Kim's house, and she wanted to meet her new husband. And we hung out for a day, and then the next morning I was having a shower, and I got out, and she's in the front room watching television, and she's like, how did you know? And I was like, what do you mean? She's like, how did you know? Trudeau shut the border down. It's closed. You can't get back to Los Angeles.
Angel says her family agreed to leave Grandma Jean in the care of their power of attorney, who made the decision to hire a care aide for Jean. But Angel says that the care Jean was getting seemed more careless than anything. Like the care part wasn't really happening.
When I got to the house, I went inside and immediately there was a stench. I was like, what is this? And I'm like, hi, Grandma. And she's like, hi, dear. And I'm like, but something's off. And then I look on the countertop and there's this like really ancient apple. And I'm like, how long does an apple take to get to decompose like that, for it to sit there? And it just wasn't right, because my grandmother has always been a very OCD domestic goddess. So that was the first sign that something was off.
Also, when Angel showed up as a Black woman with a head full of curls and mahogany skin, saying that she was Jean's granddaughter, she says the care aide from Vancouver Island Health looked at her suspiciously and had some questions.
The lady didn't know who I was, and so she was very hostile. The first words out of her mouth was like, who are you? But just in a gruff tone, and I was like, I'm the granddaughter. There's photos of me all over this house. And she goes, when are you leaving? Second thing, and just it was such a rude thing to say to someone and I was just like, well, who are you? And my grandma immediately grabbed my hand, and she was like, no, Angel's staying here. I've invited her, and she's staying in the guest bedroom.
The longer Angel stayed, the more neglect she noticed, like on her Grandma Jean's body.
I looked into it more, realized that Grandma had bed sores on her back, and there was nothing marked down, because they're supposed to mark any like wounds or anything so that a nurse can come every day to just do like triage and just take care of it till it heals, and that wasn't happening. And so I noticed all my grandma's bedding, all of her her pajamas, they all had like dried blood on them. And I was like, Grandma, like, do you have an ointment for this? And she just pulls out dish soap. And I was like, rose scented like body wash, And I was like, that's what you're using? Oh, Jesus Christ. So I realized I needed to stay.
So there you have it. A quick welfare check-in on Grandma Jean, turned into a 3-year stay. And there was more chaos and heartbreak around the corner. Like when Angel arrived, she discovered someone else was living there too.
My uncle was living there at the same time, and he had late-stage dementia, which I later figured out. So I took care of him for the last 9 months of his life as well. And then he ended up having a stroke in his bedroom.
One of the things that legitimately stuns me about interviewing Angel is that this is a person who eats life with both a spoon and a fork daily. She eats it eagerly, savors it, lets it dribble down her chin. And yet, she's been surrounded by death for much of her life.
I'd originally sensed it was coming, and I'd called 2 days before. I'd called an ambulance, and he told them to fuck off and go away. And it was really hard taking care of him for the last 9 months because he was so difficult, and he was a bully. And he was the nicest uncle ever growing up. He was like that cool old bachelor that was always had a rum in his hand. But yeah, I think all that hard drinking led to an early onset dementia, and nobody realized it was dementia because they just dismissed him as a drunk.
Angel said her mom wasn't able to help at the time. She was in the States, and as mentioned, the border had closed. And she says Grandma Jean had outlived all other folks who could have stepped in. And I think we all know this moment in one way or another. That moment when you look for the adult in the room and realize, wait, it's me. So Angel stayed, cleaned up human waste, buried her uncle, ripped out old carpets, changed the boiler, distributed medication for 3 long, lonely years.
It was very isolating, but I made the best of it. I would make sure that I went to waterfalls and different, Vancouver Island's one of the most beautiful islands in the world. There's a long times where I go radio silent, and I just go within, I retreat, and I'll go painted the exterior of my grandmother's house, and people would see me on the roof and they'd be like, "Are you okay?" And I'm like, terrified, but I'm doing it. It was just a way to just focus on something else, rather than, grieve too hard about them. Yeah, because I can't grieve in front of grandma because she doesn't understand the emotions. I've cried in front of her, and she'll ask me why, and I'll tell her, and then she's like a goldfish in a bowl sometimes, where she'll forget. And so it's useless to cry in front of her because then it just stresses her out, gives her anxiety. So rather than that, I just suck it up.
And how long have you been sucking it up for now?
I think the last 2 years. Last year was the hardest.
Grandma Jean and Angel stuck together through all of this. They stick together through all of this. The loss, the death. And just when things couldn't get any more grim, Angel suffered the biggest loss of all.
My father was shot in a Walmart in Mount Vernon, Washington, over a year ago. Some teenagers came in and they got in an argument, like a race argument or a gang argument, whatever. It was stupid. Teenagers. And they just opened fire on a Sunday in a packed Walmart while my dad was buying fruit. So he got shot. And then he ended up in the hospital for a year. And then he succumbed to his injuries. So I would drive with my grandmother 3 hours and then to see him sometimes. And then there was when he was gonna die, there was a forest fire, and we couldn't get through for weeks because the highway was closed. And I finally found a back logging road, and it took 11 hours just to get to the border. And then I drove another 3 to see him, and I missed him alive by 15 minutes. So then I spent 3 hours with him in the hospital, playing Hare Krishna songs and Pharaoh Saunders and massaging him, and I just didn't make it on time. So Too late. That's why I had to get to Mexico, because my mental health was failing.
When we come back, after all this loss, Angel and Jean head to Mexico in search of life.
And then I was like, you know what? Fuck it. I have a passport. Let's get her one.
That's right after this. Welcome back to Homegoings, Season 2, Episode 1, where I'm speaking with Angel Clouthier and, when I can, her grandma Jean, who is mildly verbal with me because of dementia. Also, she just doesn't know me very well. And Jean and Angel are about a week into getting settled in their new house in Jalisco, Mexico, a place that Angel says has always made her feel healthy and held.
When you travel more, you just put yourself in other people's shoes and you see all the things that you're not shown.
Angel, who is caring for Grandma Jean full-time, says Mexico also makes sense for them financially, which is important because, like it or not, aging in place or aging with family is a privilege. It shouldn't be, but it takes resources. To give an average of those costs in America, an assisted living facility costs around $5,300 a month. A semi-private room costs more than $8,500 a month, and a private room at around $9,700 a month. No wonder they headed south of the border. Can we even afford to get old?
I could support grandma here, a care aid for grandma. If I was to pay for someone to stay overnight, it'd be $50 an hour in Canada. That's a lot. Whereas here in Mexico, it's a lot cheaper. And here, the culture's different. They appreciate elderly. They live with their grandmas. Everybody has their grandma at home. Everyone respects them. They love my grandma. When she walks down the street, everybody helps.
I was asked by both a colleague and Angel herself why we didn't just do this over Zoom. I thought about it. It would have certainly been easier, but I wanted to see, smell, and hear Jalisco, to touch things and buy things and to learn more about their community, how they've made friends and how people are treating them. I wanted to understand more about how these two seem to be living such a healthy and vibrant life together. I learn a lot by walking. My hotel is about a mile to Angel's house, through dirt, then pavement, then stone, then dirt again, by multicolored gambling games, 2 or 3 convenience stores, young girls singing karaoke outside a liquor store, and free-roaming chickens. So many chickens, and little baby chickens. Angel's house is a beautiful little house with colorful tile and a big front yard. Bright pink flowers seem to be blooming everywhere, and Angel says the chipmunks and iguanas love them and visit her yard regularly. Her neighbors are blasting awesome music next door.
Good morning.
I was just in the shower.
I know that. I was just capturing all the beautiful sounds. Your neighbors are
Oh.
so gorgeous.
Yeah,
Party.
and they're having a party, and then they'll hear it sounds like a baby crying, but it's a goat.
It's a little goat.
It's like a little goat, and then I wanted to keep it, but then I realized it was tied up, and so someone cared for it. So
It belongs to someone.
yeah.
Well,
Willkommen.
this place is an oasis.
Oh my God.
Who's this dog?
As I mentioned, Grandma Jean doesn't talk to me much, but here's what I've learned about her from her. She grew up in Yorkshire, England, moved to Vancouver, and had a very long relationship with her husband. 67 years, in fact. And she's outlived him, too.
Well, I'm married, living in this, got married in the war, and we came to Canada. So,
You lived in Canada a long time.
yeah, he's been gone quite a long time. Yeah. So, we had a good time.
And now you're here in Mexico
Yeah,
with Angel.
thank you.
Do you like it here?
Yeah.
Why do you like it? What do you like about it?
Oh, it's just nice.
Despite the picture I've painted of Angel and Jean living their lives on the road, uprooting from one adventure to the next, I feel lucky because I think I'm getting to see them in a place in their lives where they feel settled. Angel and Grandma Jean have a weekly routine that goes a little something like this. Besides the trips and the selector sets, their life is kind of delightfully mundane. I say delightful because if you heard all the chaos and loss they suffered during lockdown, you know that they've earned this peace. Mostly Grandma Jean hangs out while Angel makes her treats and teas and gives her fresh juices. Jean has a bag full of things to dive into while Angel cooks for her, sensory things like something soft and something colorful. These things keep her busy and safe. Like, if she's checking out the things in her bag, she's less likely to fiddle with the front door. In fact, a big part of Angel's day is thinking about how to keep Grandma Jean safe.
Yeah, you basically have to just like kiddie-proof, grandma-proof. But it's harder because grandparents, they're adults, so they can get into a lot more stuff. So I just see everything that she does every day and her natural habits. So I know, like, okay, if I leave all these dirty dishes, she's going to want to clean them. And if she cleans them, she's not going to really clean them, but she will leave the faucet running and then just go walk away. So knowing that, if I have to go to a store, I make sure I do all the dishes. And if I can't do the dishes just due to time constraints, I turn off the faucets down below. So that way, if she does turn the faucet on, she can't. I always leave food and drinks on a plate, fruit ready, accessible, so she won't go searching too far for anything. Make sure there's music on.
Angel has her DJ gear set up on the table and plays music in the house daily. She says movement is stimulating for both of them, and every once in a while, I do catch Grandma Jean tapping her foot to the beat.
I try to get her to do Tai Chi because I'm trying to get her to keep it moving. Sometimes she will if she sees that I'm really into it. She'll try and copy along. But if I play really good music, she'll dance with me. So we have a lot of dancing moments.
Angel and Jean don't stay put at home for long. These two walk and walk and walk. I walked with them and I had to fight my instincts to say, don't you guys need to stop and rest? When I'm with them, they don't. At 96, Grandma Jean keeps up. And when they can get a taxi, Jean is down for all the beauty Mexico has to offer, and that Angel brings her to. Sometimes they head to the beach so Angel can surf, or just to sit beside it and soak in the waves.
Sounds like Grandma has some adventures.
Yeah, she does. It's pretty great.
It's such a stark difference here compared to Canada. How did you both, but how did she adjust to kind of the whole new vibe of it all?
Oh, really easily because she doesn't like the cold. So as soon as she saw the sunshine and all the happy people and people complimenting her and just being interactive and respectful of her, she glowed. So she's just very, very happy here. And she loves like all the food and the fruit and yeah, she's just, yeah, it's night and day.
Do you think she'll live longer because you brought her here?
100%. 100%. Yeah, no question. No question. You hungry, Grandma? Are you hungry?
Yeah.
Yeah? Okay. Let's go wander down the road and go get some food. No, no.
Angel, Grandma Jean, and I walk from the beach to the center of town where the vendors are selling their wares and the restaurants have inviting tables on the streets. Angel and Jean order delicious plates of food and a new-to-me drink, a rum pompey, which is like an eggnog-like drink made with milk, egg yolks, rum, and sugar. This gets Grandma Jean talking a little bit more, in particular about the men she likes.
Are we going to find you a man today, Grandma? Are we going to find you a man today?
I don't know yet.
Weighing your options.
Yes. She gets all the cute boys going for her. Don't you, Gran? You have to fight them off. She always has a dance partner, I'll tell you that.
What kind of men do you like, Grandma?
Nice one.
We're gonna go see Tony. Tony, a friend, and all those other gentlemen today at 3 o'clock in an hour. We're gonna go to their house for a party. They're gonna play. Yeah, they're gonna play music.
Oh.
So you'll be able to flirt then.
As you should, Grandma Jean, as you should. But as I'm sure you can imagine, it isn't all dancing, beaches, music, and flirting for these two. It gets real in their house. What are some of the harder days that you have?
She's becoming late stage dementia, so now they say if you're like really a nice person, you become like kind of evil. And they say if you're a mean person, you become really sweet. Something about the brain changing. But Grandma's starting her the ring phase.
Like the horror movie?
Yes. She's starting to scare me. Yeah, on full moons, I'm starting to notice that she doesn't know who she is on full moons. She loses her name. I'll ask her name and she will not know it on a full moon. And I'll ask her if she knows me, and she won't know me. And then I'll say that I'm her granddaughter, and she'll scoff at me and be like, "Ha, you could be my granddaughter." Like, so cheeky, and like those things, it hurts.
This is where Angel's resilience kicks in. As my mom always said, you just have to find a way to keep on keeping on. Angel's been doing that. And she'll continue to. It's what we do. And now in this story, it's 3 o'clock. We're off to our next adventure where Grandma Jean might just find her dancing partner.
Oh, well, I've been doing it for a long time.
This is a group of about 7 people drinking top shelf tequila, eating homemade guacamole, while we listen to Alan Garcia, a local musician who plays guitar and sings while we chat. Not a rager, but still, it's a fun time. And Grandma Jean already has some admirers.
It's a new color. Oh. Yeah, it's different.
Fancy.
Where did you get that hair?
I did.
Nice job. I could have guessed that.
Well, actually, it was on a little.
I told this crew specifically why I was here following Angel and Grandma Jean around. That I thought they were the perfect case study for not just alternative ways of caring for your elder, but for alternative ways of thinking about doing it. Like we just walked all day, hit the beach, had a rum pompey, and now we're at a day party. There are clearly joyous ways of doing this. I asked them what they think about it all.
What we all think about Angel and the grandmother. Shit! Are we allowed to talk about that?
I think what you were saying, about Angel taking care of her mom is pretty cool, because that's what, First Nations do with their people.
Grandparents.
And yeah, like COVID was, hearing all those stories of COVID, it just sounds like that, like people being trapped. You get to look through glass to see your own relative and not allowed to touch their hands. So it's a pretty hard period,
Yeah, and elderly need touch. They need that what is it? Oxytocin? Yeah, it's from hugs. Hugs are beneficial. Like, I give you hugs every single day. I give you kisses every day. I tell you how much I love you every day. I pay you compliments every day. You need that to grow. It's like humans need to be watered.
And in our society, there's such a chuck away, what you no longer useful to, the economy, party scene, or whatever. You just kind of filter it off to sort of forget about. And to take your grandmother on a trip like this is very special, and it's a good example of what we need to do to take care of our elderly people.
And just when I thought the day couldn't get any more colorful or lovely, Alan sang us an original song.
I can't explain the feelings that look into your eyes, that walking by your side, and I can't stay without you. Waiting in the rain, talking by myself. I can live somewhere in my feelings.
At the end of my 5 days with Angel and Grandma Jean, I felt, sad. Like I was gonna miss them. And now that I'm back in the States, I'll admit I do. And it's not just because I'm filled with gratitude for being allowed into their lives this intimately, though this has something to do with it, for sure. I think if I'm honest, maybe I'm a little jealous in a good way. I was too young when my grandmama passed to be able to offer her a life like this at home with me. And if I had the chance, I would have jumped on it. It would have meant the world to know her this deeply and to watch her age surrounded by love, friendship, and art. But I'm mostly envious of Angel's confidence around this care. Like, even if I had the chance to do this with my grandma, I don't know that I would have had the confidence to do it this way. To pick up and move somewhere warm with little fear and endless faith, continuing my creative career with an elderly person in tow. But then again, isn't this what our parents did with us? I mean, they didn't have a map with a newborn either. And yet here we are, when we're lucky, all of us, aging. And the cycle of care continues. Angel reminds us, why not do it with confidence?
I didn't have any training as a care aide, but I tried to be as informed as possible. I've asked all my nurse friends and the care aides that I did meet, I would ask them, and nurses, I would pick their brains, and I watched everything that the nurses had. I watched and I collected all of those things myself. My friends say that I'm like a cat, and I always land on my feet. Everything's a whim, but I feel like if you have a good heart, it goes a long way than a big wallet.
Done. Mic drop.
Kabam!
Boom.
He's a dream man.
We did it. We launched season 2, and with such a tender and joyous story. There will be plenty more of that coming your way, so hit that subscribe button wherever you get your podcasts. Then tell a fellow homie. Bring them into the Homegoings family. Special thanks to all who made this episode happen, like our Vermont Public Data journalist, Corey Doxer, The folks who graciously allowed me into their home and hopped on the mic at our day party: Matthew Siegel, John Hopkins, Petra Brett Vixer, and Barb Sly. This episode was mixed, scored, and reported by me, with help from, wait for it, our new associate producer, James Stewart. Woo! That's right, it's official. James is now a producer on the show. So keep your eyes and ears peeled for more of the cool things he's doing to help this show live its best life, like building our lovely web build for this episode, with more pictures and video of Angel and Grandma Jean in all their glory. Plus, this song,
I can't keep up. I can't relate. Has to stay in my fantasy. Never a day.
is an unreleased original by Angel Clouthier and her producer, Anton Glam. It's called Dream Man, and we've centered the full version for you to dance to at homegoings.co. So head over there. You'll be one of the first to lay ears on the whole tune. Actually, there's a ton of original music in this episode. I composed the Homegoings theme music and scored the episode with more originals from Angel and Anton. Some songs called Devoting to Somebody and Lovely Lurker Lady. The song you heard by Alan Garcia is titled My Life Without You, and all other music comes from Blue Dot Sessions. Saeed Tijan Thomas Jr. edited this episode, and Zoe McDonald is the graphic artist behind our Homegoings artist portrait. Angel and Jean are front and center on this one, wrapped in a beautiful embrace encompassed by the jewels and flowers of Mexico. You must check it out at homegoings.co. While you're there, you can sign up for our newsletter. This is just the beginning of season 2, and this season, besides dropping episodes, I'm hoping to start some episode debriefs and community conversations with y'all. I think it's fair to say this stuff is fun to talk about together. I can say more when I can, but for now, give us a follow on Instagram at We Are Homegoings and stay tuned for that announcement so you can join in the conversation. In the meantime, thanks for rocking with us into a second season. You made this happen. You'll be hearing from me soon enough, Homegoings homies. As always, you are welcome here.
It's exhausting.
It must be.
Yeah, I think like having the name Angel is a blessing and a curse.
Yeah, I kind of just got that.
One day I'd like to become a dark angel.
Hey Vermont, Mitch Wertlieb here, and I host a daily news podcast from Vermont Public called The Frequency. You'll hear top stories from our newsroom in less than 15 minutes every weekday morning. Connect with our state when you search for The Frequency wherever you like to find podcasts. We're a proud member of the NPR network.